𝐅𝐫𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐲. Be sure to check on the children.
Hello and welcome to Freaky Fridays with me, your hostess with the mostest, Sky Explains It All. So in this installment of Freaky Fridays, we're going to be taking a look at the 2019 horror/comedy film We Summon the Darkness, which starred Alexandra Daddario as Alexis, Amy Forsyth as Beverly aka Bev, and Maddie Hassan as Val aka Valerie. The story takes place on July 4th in the year 1988, so we're taking a jump back to the 80s, y'all. And we have our main characters, Alexis, Val, and Beverly. They're in the car. They're on their way to like this heavy metal concert. So they're just chit-chatting away, talking. And Valerie is like, I really have to go to the bathroom. Alexis is telling her like, girl, like we just did a stop not that long ago. And throughout this movie, we'll see Valerie is always talking about how she has like a really small bladder. This ma'am always has to pee. And since they're already out of ding-dongs, you know, Twinkies anyway, as Beverly said, Alexis goes ahead and says, we'll go ahead, we'll stop and get some more snacks, and you can go to the bathroom. They make their way to the gas station. And as they're at the gas station, the store clerk is watching one of those like televangelical, like gospel type of shows where like someone's preaching. The pastor is on there and his name is John Henry Butler. And he's talking about how like rock and roll music is the devil corrupting our kids today and we need to condemn it, all this stuff, right? As he's saying that, the girls are, you know, shopping along in the store. And Beverly has a newspaper. This newspaper is talking about how some teens were recently murdered tied to this like satanic cult because it's been going on, like these satanic cult murders. Alexis says to Beverly, hey, that's supposed to scare other people, not us. And they all check out, they get their snacks and whatnot, and they head back to the car. And when they're back in the car, they're driving, and on the radio, a report comes that they've recently discovered, authorities, 3 bodies of youths. So this brings the death count total to 18. So there have been a total of 18 murders across the country, and they are all tied to this like satanic cult. The girls are driving, chit-chatting away, and then all of a sudden there's this brown liquid that hits their windshield. It's not a pretty sight. The girls almost crash because, hello, their view is being obstructed by whatever brown gunk is on their window. So they pull over, they stop the car, they curse out the people who are still driving away, and they clean it up. It ends up just being like a chocolate milkshake, but still that's nasty. They get back in the car and they drive to the concert in the parking lot, and there's all the metalheads in there. Everyone's like super psyched for the concert. The girls park the car, and when they park the car, they notice that the van that was on the road that threw out the milkshake is parked right here in the parking lot. They're at the same show as them. So to get payback, Valerie takes these fireworks that they bought from the gas station, lights them, and then throws them into the van, and they see, you know, they start popping up. Out comes out these 3 guys, and they're like, dude, like, what's your problem? That's not funny. And the girls are like, well, y'all could have, like, you know, taken us out by throwing stuff out of a moving vehicle on the road. And they're like, oh bro, like, so sorry, like, our bad, how can we make it up to you? So they end up sharing their beer with the girls. And these 3 characters are Kovacs, Mark, and Ivan. Kovacs, Mark, and Ivan, and Beverly, Alexis, and Val. They're all just chit-chatting away. They're talking about like their favorite bands, what was their first shows that they have all went to. Valerie tells her first show she went to. Bev tells her first show she went to. But Alexis is kind of like, oh, I don't know if I really remember. Beverly chimes in and she's like, oh, well, you told me it was Scorpions, right? And she was like, oh yeah, it was Scorpions. So keep that in mind as we go along throughout this video. They all decide to go into the concert together. They're in the concert, people are headbanging, they're moshing. Bev seems really into it. Valerie seems really into it, but Alexis kind of looks like out of place. Like she's not really moshing. She looks like kind of uncomfortable. I'm sorry, y'all, got like freaking eyelash or something got in my eye. So Alexis is the only one who kind of looks like a fish out of water. Anyway, they're having a great time. Concert's over, you know, rock on. Everyone's like had a blast. And the girls tell them, well, been nicely meeting y'all, but we're about to head out. And Ivan's like, no, come on. Like, we gotta hang out. Like, the night's still young. Like, let's go to a bar. And the girls are like, girl, we ain't going to no bar. Alexis takes over Valerie and Beverly And she's like, these will be like the perfect people. So they're like, okay, I guess, whatever. So Alexis invites the guys to come back with them to Alexis's dad's home. It's like 30 minutes away from the venue. The guys all agree and they follow behind the girls in their van. Once they arrive to the home, it's this gargantuan house, and they're like, what does her dad do for work? Like, they got money. When they park, they don't pull up to like the front of the house in the driveway. They park like down the road from where the house actually is, but it's still their property. It's like a huge house. The guys park the car, everyone comes in, she tells them like where the rooms are, different games, and like all this stuff, basically telling them some, you know, make themselves at home. They take the party outside to the back and they make like a little bonfire. So they have a bonfire, they're hanging out, they're chit-chatting, they're drinking. So Valerie is flirting with Kovacs and she's sitting on his lap talking to him. And Ivan tries to flirt with Beverly, and she kind of just walks off and goes back into the house. You can tell Alexis is kind of a little irritated. So Alexis follows Beverly into the house and she's like, girl, what's your deal? Like, what's your problem? You're being like so antisocial. Like, what is the deal? And Beverly's like, I've never done anything like this. Alexis tells her like, hey, when you came to us, we know you had nothing, you had no family, but we're your friends now, we're your family now. We know me and Valerie are always teasing you, but we're glad that you're here and we're like sisters. So just do what I do, follow my lead. And she pours alcohol into these cups, and Beverly's like, okay. So she follows Alexis out of the house to go back to the bonfire where everyone else is. Beverly is making her way out the back door, and who does she bump into? Mark. And her and Mark have kind of been like stealing glances from each other. Like, they seem like they're kind of into each other a little bit. They bang into each other, and it ends up spilling alcohol on her jacket. So she takes it off, and then Mark offers his jacket so she can wear it because he says it's cold. So she puts on a jacket. He's like, oh, it even looks better on you than on me. And she puts her hands in the pockets and she pulls out a switchblade. She's like, oh, that's interesting. And he's like, oh, well, it's my brother's switchblade. And she's looking in the back of her mind like, okay, that's kind of weird. But anyway, all back at the group, they're chilling around the fire. They're talking about different bands and stuff. They're drinking. Alexis and them suggest that they play a game of Never Have I Ever. If you guys don't know what the game Never Have I Ever is, basically, you don't have to drink to play it, but this is how they're playing it as they're drinking. So you say something you've never done, like say, never have I ever flown a plane. If you flew a plane, then you would take a drink, right? Okay, so that's the name of the game. They start playing this game. They're going around the circle. Everyone's saying what they have never done. And then when it gets to Alexis's turn, she says, never have I ever drugged someone's drink. They're looking like, that's kind of messed up. No, none of us have ever done that. The guys are like, nah, we never done that. And it's Kovacs and Ivan that say that. But at this point, Mark has kind of got up. He's walking around and he's sitting down in the grass. All the girls drink after that whole never have I ever drugged someone. And they're looking like, no way. Like, not taking it too seriously. Like, you gotta tell us, like, who'd you drug? And then they kind of make these gestures towards them. And they look and they're like, oh, us? You mean us? So Kovacs starts laughing. He was like, if you guys wanted to sleep with us, you didn't have to drug us to sleep with us. And they start cackling and laughing. Only Alexis and Val are the ones laughing. Bev is kind of on the sidelines observing everything. They're like, oh, you thought we wanted to sleep with you? Why would you think that? The situation is kind of awkward. And Ivan's like, this is getting real weird. It's been really great. Thanks for having us. Thanks for your hospitality, but we're gonna go. And as he's trying to walk away, he like falls to the ground. He's knocked. Mark has already passed out before all of them. And then Kovacs knocks out too. So the girls drag their bodies back into the house. Guys, they're all like undressed. They just have on their underwear. They throw water on their faces to wake them up. And in the room, we see like these words that say, we summon the darkness. There's like a lot of satanic ritualistic artifacts and things around in the room, and the guys start freaking out. They're like, oh my god, like, you guys are devil worshippers, da 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 da, like, oh my god, y'all are crazy. Alexis tells them, I'm gonna be so for real with y'all, we don't care about any of this stuff. We don't care about cults. We don't care about metal. We don't care about rock and roll. We're not devil worshippers. We're not none of that. We don't care about none of this stuff. Basically, Alexis, Beverly, and Val are all a part of a church, their congregation. And the congregation, they've set up this kind of, I guess you'd call them a sort of task force to where they are the ones committing the murders, and they're doing that and making it falsely associated with like satanic groups, and specifically like people who are like metalheads, because they think by doing that, by putting fear into the public and listening to this music ends in death, it ends, you know, damnation, you won't get into the gates of heaven, all that stuff. They're trying to basically cause fear in people's hearts to then bring them into the church, because then people like them can help to save their souls. They're basically trying to, you know, bamboozle the public into believing into Jesus by literally taking people out. Last week, it was one group that did this. The week before that, it was another group. And so after they take these 3 guys out, it'll be another group next week, and so on and so forth. Those guys are like, these girls are crazy. Y'all are wilding. Y'all are tripping. Y'all are ridiculous. And Ivan is talking real greasy. Ivan is going off and off. And Alexis keeps telling him to shut up. And he wouldn't shut up. And so then she takes the knife and then stabs him in the throat. Stabs him right in the throat, not the throat, the throat. He's bleeding out. Kovacs is freaking out. And she's like, bruh, well, I told you to shut up. So next on the docket, she's about to take out Mark. So she goes to, you know, slice Mark. As she's about to stab Mark, Bev is like, hold on, wait. Valerie's like, oh my God, what? Like, I knew she was gonna pull something like this. She's like, I need to talk to you. And Alexis is like, what do you need to talk about? She's like, come on, I just need to talk to you. Alexis, Bev, and Valerie, they all go off into the bathroom to chit chat. Mark and Kovacs are talking, and Mark tells Kovacs, hey, you see my belt there? Try to grab and reach my belt so I can like get it to, you know, cut our ropes to untie us. Girls are in the bathroom. Valerie is peeing again because she has her small bladder. And Beverly tells Alexis, like, she wants to be the one to do it, like to, you know, end Mark, take him out. They're kind of like, oh, should we let her do it? And so they eventually agree to let her do it. When they agree to let Beverly do the deed, Alexis tells her how to do it to where it looks like a taking out deletion. I can't say the words here on YouTube, but you know, when someone takes someone out and then they take themselves out, she tells them she has to stab them to where it looks like that. They're planning to go back in the room and they hear something fall over. They go back to the room and the guys are untied. They're out, they're roaming about, they're trying to make it to the front door. And so the girls are chasing after them. They're all like running around, running after each other. Freaking Alexis slices Kovacs in the arm, so he's bleeding out. Mark whacks Valerie and Alexis with like a cookie sheet, and they dart into the pantry and they close the door and like barricade themselves in. The guys are barricaded into the pantry. The girls can't get them to get out. They try all these different tactics to try and get them out. They send out Beverly to go find a tool that they could use to, you know, get the guys out of the pantry, while Alexis and Valerie are trying to, you know, figure this out, trying to get him out, get them out of there. We see a car approach, and who is it? It's Alexis's stepmom, technically ex-stepmom, because her and her dad kind of recently got divorced. But she said that she came back because she forgot her passport. And she looks at them and she's like, why are y'all dressed like that? Alexis lies and says like they went to like a costume party for 4th of July or whatever. She buys the story. She goes upstairs to her passport and some other Tina Snow things. When she comes back downstairs, she tells the girls, well, she's off, she's gonna go, but keep in mind that the cops may or may not show up, and let them know it's a false alarm. And Alexis like, what do you mean? Hold on, what do you mean the cops might show up? And she's like, well, when I was pulling in, I saw a van parked in front of the house and looked kind of suspicious and the lights were on. So, and it looked like someone was trying to break in or rob the house. So I called the cops, but you can just let them know if they come here, it was a false alarm. Alexis starts acting weird, acting real suspicious. Her stepmom is like, Alexis, what is going on here? And Alexis is like, nothing's going on. Her stepmom starts walking around. She makes it to the room where, you know, the fake ritual would have been happening. She sees the corpse of Ivan, and she sees all the like satanic stuff, and she screams and she starts freaking out, and then Alexis stabs her. So Alexis takes out her stepmom. Alexis and Valerie still agree to go on with the plan. They're still trying to get these dudes out of the freaking pantry. Meanwhile, Beverly is in the barn, and she's trying to find something to help get the pantry door open. When she's in there, what does she come across? Like a huge container full of cash money. Dollar bills. And she looks irritated when she sees this. So the guys are trying to still plan their escape. They've tried multiple ways to kind of get out. We see lights pull up, and who is it? It's the cop that Alexis' stepmom said that would more than likely show up. So Alexis, she leaves the house, she goes outside, and she puts on like this Valley girl accent, trying to come off super innocent. And the cop's like, "You live here? What's going on?" And she pulls out this story like, "Oh my God, like my stepmom, she didn't know anyone was going to be here, and she called the cops, and she just came to get her passport and she forgot it. And then, you know, she was going to head out and leave." And the cop's not buying the story that she's giving. He's like, "So do you have ID?" And she goes like not on me, like in the house. He tells her, "Well, go get some ID and tell your stepmom to come down." And she just darts for the front door. The cop runs after her. She runs in, she closes the door. The cop breaks down the door, and he comes inside. Kovacs and Mark come out when they hear that the sheriff is there, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like we need help. Please help us. These girls are crazy." And the cop is treating them like they're the criminals. You got Kovacs here who's literally like bleeding out, who's fully like making his transition to the upper room as we speak. And the cop is treating them like criminals. He's like, "Put your hands up. Like, I will totally, you know, pow you guys." And he's about to start handcuffing them. And they're like, "Bro, you're making a huge mistake." And so as he's handcuffing them, we see a hand grab the gun and then pow in his head. Valerie pow the cop in the head. So boop, cop's out. Alexis is like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you powed a cop." The guys dart back into the pantry. Alexis and Valerie start fighting for the gun, because not because they're trying to pow each other. Alexis is kind of the leader, and Valerie's been kind of a follower, so you can tell like her having the pow made her feel like she has some sense of authority. So, you know, they're tussling, they're fighting over the pow. As they're fighting, Bev shows up with like, is this a weed whacker? I don't know. I'm not versed in outdoor tools. I don't know about any of that stuff. She whacks them with this weed whacker. She gets Valerie in the arm. She gets Alexis in the leg. The reason why Beverly turns on Alexis and Valerie is because the money that she found in the barn is actually donations from people donating to the church. Oh, her dad, the pastor, has been pocketing all of the money. So this money was supposed to be used to create youth group homes for troubled teens, people who don't have homes and stuff like that, like Beverly. But nah, he ain't been doing all that. He's been buying big old pads like the one they're in right now. That made Beverly say, "You know what? I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm going to be joining their sides, and we're not going to be doing this, taking people out like y'all are hypocrites." Girls are all tussling. The guys get out of the room, and so all the girls like dart across the house. So Valerie goes one way, Alexis goes another way. Bev teams up with Mark and Kovacs, and Mark says that they need to find the keys to the car because Kovacs needs a car. Like, he's lost so much blood, he won't survive if they just walk. Like, they need a vehicle. So he goes to try and find the keys. As they're all spreading out across the house, guess what? Another car pulls up, and who is it? It's the pastor. If you haven't figured it out yet, the pastor is Alexis's father. Kovacs is sitting in the living room. He has the pow. Beverly left it with him. He stumbles out of the house and he goes up to the pastor. He can't see that it's the pastor. He's like, "Hey man, like some really messed up stuff's going on. My friends need help. One of my friends is, you know, taken out. Like, please, I need you to help me. I need you to call the cops." And then the pastor's like, "It's okay. Calm down. I have a cellular phone in my car. Hand me the weapon, son, and you can go in the car and then call for 911. Kovacs goes over. He gives him the pow. He looks at him and he's like, "Hey, I recognize you. You're the pastor from the T." And then poo. The pastor pows him. So Kovacs is down for the count. The pastor walks in the house and he's just taking in all the bodies, all the carnage that's happening, but he's not even like irate. He's just like, "Are you kidding me? Like, here we go." Like, the energy he has, it's like he like just spilled like a glass of water or something. Like, it's like a slight irritant to him, which is wild to me because you literally have a bunch of people, you know, taken out in your home. So Valerie and Beverly are tussling in the basement. When I tell you, Valerie is wearing Beverly out. Them punches are connecting. It's like boosh, boosh, boosh. Like, girl can fight. Like, she need to be in the WWF or something. Well, WWE now, but like, Valerie got those hands. I'm very curious about like her backstory and what her life was before she came to the church. Val is like, you know, choking Bev with the weed whacker. And it looks like it's over and done for Bev. It looks like she's about to make it her way to the upper room, but she then pulls out a lighter, and this is the 80s, so everyone had huge hair, hairspray galore. We see all throughout the movie how Valerie was always spraying her hair with hairspray. What happens, Bev gets out the lighter, she lights up Valerie's hair, and her whole head catches on fire. So she's lit up and lit out, and so she's now out of the picture. And fast forward, Mark finally finds the keys in the bedroom, but as he finds them, who comes out of the closet and starts attacking him? Alexis. While they're upstairs tussling, somehow Kovacs is still alive, and when Beverly comes upstairs, she sees him and she's like, oh my gosh, what happened to you? And he just tells her to please like save Mark, and then he finally kicks the bucket. Upstairs, while the tussling between Mark and Alexis is going on, Mark is having the upper hand. Mark is starting to strangle her until he gets pow-powed in the shoulder. Who pow-powed him? The pastor. The pastor is going off on Alexis. He's like, you have made a mess of this and that. This was not how things are supposed to go. And Alexis like, I'm sorry, daddy. Like, the plan got all messed up. Like, we can still make it work. He was like, it's okay. We can fix this. He was like, certain sacrifices just have to be made. And Alexis is like, well, what kind of sacrifices? And he tells Alexis that she'll be a martyr. He starts choking her, choking her, choking her. And as he's choking her, who comes in and saves her? Beverly. The whole thing was, this was all a setup. The freaking pastor was setting this whole thing up so it would help to not implicate him, because he said that people were already like suspicious of him in his church. So by sacrificing his own daughter, it would help to kind of absolve any suspicion like he had nothing to do with this. So this was all a setup from the get-go. Trifling for his own child. Alexis and Bev, they're tussling. As they're tussling, Alexis trips over Mark, who's passed out on the ground, trips over his arm, and so she literally goes breaking through the window from the second floor and falls to the ground from the second floor. So the likelihood of her being alive is slim to none. Mark and Beverly are leaving the house. They are able to get the keys. They make their way to the Jeep, which is Alexis's car. And they're in the car and they're about to head out. And who do we see standing in the road? It is Alexis. And Alexis is just standing there. And Beverly revs up the engine and then just zoom, boom, crash. And we see this like huge mass like trail of blood on the road. So we don't see Alexis get hit with the car, but we know she got hit with the car. They make a pit stop at the gas station, the same gas station that the girls went to in the beginning of the movie. And it is the next day, it's the following morning. The same store clerk who was there before. It is a news report happening that the store clerk is watching. And it's the story of the pastor, how he was a victim of the cult murders. He's the only sole survivor. So the pastor survived and ended up getting exactly what he wanted. He looks like the victim. He looks like the good one in this scenario. So it now looks like all these like murders were planned by his daughter. He gets to go away innocent and scot-free and unscathed. Trifling. Beverly, she gets back to the car and we see a shot. And what's the shot of? It's a shot of that case of money. So she has all the money and the donations that the pastor was pocketing. And her and Mark drive off. And then that is the end of We Summon the Darkness. Those are just the highlights. I haven't told y'all everything. I don't want to spoil every little thing for y'all. When I first saw it, it was 2020 when the panini bread had just started happening here in the States and lockdowns happened. And I remember it came on, it was uploaded onto Netflix, and watched it and was obsessed. Like, I enjoy this movie so much. Like, It is the perfect balance of like horror and comedy. The girl who plays Val, she is a cackle throughout the whole movie, and each character has like, you know, their comedic moments, but she, in my opinion, is like the comedic relief throughout the whole movie, and she's just so exceptionally good. I would love to see her in like 2000s kind of vibe, like kind of funny, raunchy comedies. She'd be really good at that. She's super funny. Her appearance looks a lot like Florence Pugh to me, and then Alexandra Daddario looks so much like Frances Bean Cobain to me, and then the young woman who plays Beverly looks a lot like, what's the girl's name? Abigail Breslin? Abigail? I'll put her picture up here. The three main girls have some doppelgangers. If you're interested in watching it, I'll have like everywhere listed where it's streaming right now. Yeah, I feel like if you like Jennifer's Body, that you'll like this movie. Like, I think it's really funny, and I think more people should watch it and get into it. So yes, if you like this video, like it. If you're enjoying the content I make here, please subscribe. I'd very much so love to have you here. And you guys, leave me a comment. Like, have you ever seen this movie before? Were you someone who was old enough to remember that whole era of like satanic panic from like the late 60s all the way into like the early 90s? Do you remember that era? Like, what was that like? Just leave me down your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I have to return some videotapes. Bye guys.